Well, good afternoon and welcome to Midcap Radar. I'm Vivek Iyer and with me today is Hormaz Fatakia. Good afternoon, Hormaz. A day of healthy gains. So the second day of calendar year 2025, we managed to build onto the gains. This is something we've not been able to do as far as especially the last 2 weeks of 2024 were concerned. It's the financials, it's the autos, the entire pack that are doing quite well in the session.
Above key levels, actually at very key levels for that matter, is the Nifty, now at 24,100, the higher end of the resistance band of that range that we were seeing on the index. But we'll get to that in just a bit. But these are the headlines that we are tracking at 1:30 this afternoon. The indices have surged to the highest point of the day, led by autos and financial services. The Nifty is back above 24,100. The broader markets relatively underperform.
Ashok Leyland turns in a strong show for the month of December, beating expectations. Total sales jumps 5% year-on-year. The stock zooms nearly 5% in trade.
Petronet LNG is under pressure after Citi has opened a 90-day negative catalyst watch and has issued a sell rating on the stock. The brokerage says that the company is facing a meaningful regulatory risk.
CSB Bank gains after reporting robust business growth in its Q3 FY25 business update. Deposits grow over 22%, while advances jump almost 26% on a year-on-year basis.
Jubilant FoodWorks has gained after the company has highlighted 3 key priorities in its meeting with analysts. The company remains focused on growth rather than margin expansion, and it also adds that it wants to scale up Domino's further and increase order frequencies.
Well, good afternoon. What's actually doing very well on D Street today is the entire auto pack. The month of December has turned out to be much better versus the muted analyst estimates that were going into the sales forecast for the month. On your screen, you can see the monthly operational update coming in for TVS Motors. Exports higher by 22%. It's a marginal miss as far as the total sales is concerned. But despite that, the stock is holding quite strong, up over 1.5% in the session. Not only TVS Motors, the entire auto pack, especially names like Eicher Motors, which managed to beat the expectations, doing very well in the session today. But this particular show is all about mid-caps. Upasana today is standing by the wall to take us through the mid-caps that are moving around in the session.
Well, certainly autos and financial segment is the key today that is moving higher in trade. Now, first up, let us look at the top gainers today. PB Fintech is up nearly about 2%, followed by Oil India with gains of nearly above 5%, followed by IGL, which has seen a move of nearly about 3%, and Tube Investments also trading higher with a gains of nearly about 2%. Now, let us look at the NBFC stock. That's the key. That's the pocket doing really very well in today's trade. Now, Credit Axis Grameen is up more than 8% in today's trade, up highest in 7 months, and trading volume on this stock also doubles. MFIN has deferred implementation of limiting number of lenders to 3 per borrower by 3 months. That's the reason the stock is seeing such a high move. Now, Sundaram Finance also in focus, up nearly about 8%. The stock jumps highest in 2 years on back of high volumes. CV Financer Chola Mandalam also in focus, up nearly about 5%, followed by L&T Finance, which is up nearly about 3.5%. Now, let us look at the key volume buzzers in today's trade. Vodafone Idea continues to top the list today as well on the back of high volumes. Suzlon Energy, this stock snaps its 2 days gaining streak and is down nearly about 3.3% in today's trade. Tanla Platforms up nearly about 2%, followed by Easy Trip, which has seen a downtick of about 2%. And lastly, SJVN, which has also seen a downtick of nearly about 2%. Now, let us look at the stocks that have hit the 52-week high. Jubilant Food, like yesterday, continues to remain in focus, up nearly about 2%. Lupin also up nearly about 1%. Muthoot Finance has also hit a 52-week high, nearly up about 2%. And lastly, PB Fintech also in focus on back of this. Now, let us look at the top losers in today's trade. Petronet Energy is the key stock today. It has seen a downtick of nearly about 7%. This is because the Citi has given a sell rating and a target price of 310 per share, highlighting the regulatory risk on the stock. Solar industry is also in focus, down about 2%. It is the highest fall seen in 7 months. And next is Tata Elxsi, down nearly about 1%, followed by Bank of India and Paytm, which is also down about 1.1%, and it continues at yesterday's losing streak. Now, lastly, let us look at the newsmakers of the day. Ashok Leyland is up nearly about 5%. This is because the December sales are better than estimates and total sales jump about 5% on a Y-on-Y basis. And lastly, NMDC is also up about 2%. The December sales are down about 7% on a Y-on-Y basis.
Thanks a lot for that. By the way, can't not highlight the large caps in today's session, although we are on mid-cap radar, but 24,115 is where the Nifty is, 370 points higher now on the index at its weekly options expiry session. The Sensex is up 1,200 points as we speak, was leading the charge. Infosys up 4% now, 73 points is what is contributing to the index upside in today's session, and that too after some ahead of its results. Of course, 16th of Jan is when Infosys comes out with its December quarter results. Bajaj Finance is up 6.5% as we speak, and HDFC Bank too has made its mention in the list of top contributors. Let's ask some questions to Nagaraj Shetty of HDFC Securities on where the Nifty is headed now after such a move. Nagaraj, good afternoon. Thank you for joining in. You know, we may say that volumes are low, but the screen is showing a 370 point up move. We are at very important levels on the range that the Nifty was in. Do you see this sustaining? And more importantly, if it does so, where is the Nifty headed? Couple that up with your stock recommendations as well for the afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Today's up move has certainly changed the sentiment of the market after moving into a range bound action, making a false downside breakout attempt recently. Nifty finally regained the crucial, important lower support of 200-day EMA. And historically also, we have seen that 200-day EMA has witnessed an important reversal for the market, and even market in the past has moved up significantly from this support level. This upside bounce and the resistance of 24,150 is likely to be broken on the upper side. And this overall positive chart pattern is indicating that next stop for the Nifty is around somewhere around 24,500 to 24,550 levels in the next at least in the next few sessions.
Nagaraj, thanks for index views. What are the individual stock calls that you're looking at today, and especially anything you're making as far as the auto move is concerned?
Yeah, I have two stocks from the mid and larger cap side. First one is the PNB Housing Finance. If you look at chartically, the housing finance sector was moving in a laggard, and this PNB Housing has moved up recently very well and currently placed at the edge of upside breakout of the downsloping trend line. It placed at very crucial point. The overall chart pattern is looking positive. Currently trading around 926 to 927. One can look to buy at this point of time. 980 would be the target, and one can place a stop loss of 895. My second call is from a textile front, Raymond. Chartically, Raymond has been a zigzag up move recently. After a consolidation, it has started to move up from the lower levels. Currently trading around 1770 levels. One can look to buy at this point of time. 1870, 1875 is going to be the target, and one can place a stop loss of around 1720 levels. And from the
Nagaraj.
auto pack,
Yes, please continue, Nagaraj.
Yeah, from the auto pack, you said the automobile sector was in a underperformance recently after the moving into a consolidation phase from the important support. The whole host of automobile stocks have moved up, even sector as well. And in this automobile, I think the Mahindra and Mahindra one Maruti are looking very attractive at this point of time. They have placed at the very good supports.
Nagaraj, thank you so much for joining in, sharing with us your views on the index and specific stocks as well. By the way, pull up PNB. The business updates for the third quarter were just flashing at the bottom of your screen. The overall advances on the domestic advances at least have risen 14.1% on a year-on-year basis. The global, the domestic deposits have also risen about 14.5% on a year-on-year basis. On a sequential basis too, advances are up 5% domestically and 4.2% growth in domestic deposits as well on a sequential basis. And you can see the move there on the stock after the business update. So a double-digit year-on-year growth in both advances and deposits, at least on the domestic side for PNB, 2.5% higher at 105. Time for a short break. More on the markets and specific stocks on the other side. Stay tuned. Back with us here on Midcap Radar and on to the Midcap Spotlight segment. And Vinny is here now to focus on a real estate company, and that is Signature Global. Vinny.
Good afternoon. Yes, Signature Global is a stock that is in focus today. And look at the jump up that we've seen in the stock price since the morning time. As of now, also holding on to good gains. Now, Motilal Oswal has reiterated a buy on this one and a target price of 2,000 rupees per share, which is almost a 50% potential upside from around the yesterday's closing price or current market price around that level. Now, what the brokerage note is highlighting, they believe that the company is actually on track to capitalize on the ongoing demand. The company has guided for a strong project pipeline as well of around 24.3 million square feet is what they're looking in terms of development. The strategic shift that the company is making and moving towards more of a mid and premium segments is something that will work for the company. Previously, they were more in the affordable side. So now moving towards mid and premium will mean increased cash flows coming in for the company. And Motilal Oswal is highlighting a strong cumulative operating cash flow of around 9,500 crores from this. Now, the company's balance sheet obviously will turn a cash positive by the end of FY25. That's the highlight coming in from them. And Motilal Oswal is expecting the company to deliver a 35% CAGR growth over the next couple of years, sustaining strong growth momentum. And that is why the stock is buzzing in trade, up 3% as of now.
Thanks so much for that, Vinny. But Vinny, you've also been looking at Jubilant Foodworks. The stock has gained after the company has highlighted a couple of priorities in its meet with the analyst community. Tell us more.
Absolutely. So Jubilant Foodwork, the key highlights that have come in from these analyst meets is one, the company said that they've remained focused on growth rather than margin expansion. Same-store sales growth, they expected to expand as well. Mid to high single digit is what they're talking about. Though one thing they've highlighted as a positive on margin front is that the margins have bottomed out now in the calendar 2024. From here on, obviously, we'll start seeing an improvement, but that will be a gradual improvement that we're seeing for Jubilant Foodworks in terms of margins is what is expected. Now, the company said that they will be doubling down on Domino's and prioritizing volume growth over there. They have also spoken about focusing on Popeyes, in terms of the profitability over there, recalibration in terms of store expansion, what is the strategy that they'll be following there, and improving the unit economics in Popeyes is one of the key strategies and priorities for the company. Lastly, they've also spoken about strengthening the global footprint by DP Eurasia business and looking to drive the growth in terms of value going forward in terms of a long-term strategy coming in from DP Eurasia. So on the back of this, Jefferies has maintained a buy rating, target price of 1,000 rupees. With HDFC Security maintaining an ad, target price of 690. Kotak maintaining a reduce, target price of 690 rupees as well. And Motilal Oswal maintaining the neutral and a target price of 800 rupees per share. Post this, so stock passing in trade today.
Vinny, thanks a lot for that. Jubilant Foodworks, healthy gains in today's session, up at the highest point of the day now, 2% higher at 753. But some of the other movers that in today's session, CSB Bank and South Indian Bank are the other two because both of them came out with their business updates. Abhishek tells us more on that. Abhishek.
Well, CSB Bank has seen robust business momentum, deposit growing at more than 22% YOY and close to 5% sequentially. So the sequential deposit momentum has been aided by term deposits, which has grown in line with the overall deposits at around 5% quarter on quarter. Advances growth have been robust as well, 26.5% on a YOY basis and close to 7.6% on a sequential basis. This largely been aided by the gold loan portfolio, which has grown at about 36.3% YOY and close to 8.5% quarter on quarter. So the gold loan share in the overall loan mix has increased to 45% versus 41.8% in the same quarter last year and about 44.7% in the previous quarter. The credit deposit ratio has inched up compared to YOY or quarter on quarter number, and this augurs well for net interest margin to remain on the higher side. South Indian Bank, the pace of deposit momentum has slowed down and credit deposit ratio has gained both YOY and quarter on quarter. So the overall deposits have grown by just 6% on a YOY basis, and they have declined marginally on a sequential basis. The CASA has declined by 2.2% on a sequential basis. So the CASA ratio has declined both YOY and quarter on quarter. The advances growth have been much better than deposit growth at 11.9% YOY and close to 2.7% quarter on quarter. And this has augured well for the credit deposit ratio, which has improved to 82.5% when compared to 78.35% on a YOY basis and about 80.3% on a sequential basis, which augurs well for the net interest margin to remain at an elevated level if slippages are under control. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, for that. Lenders doing very well in the session today. But one stock that's seen quite a bit of a sell-off is Petronet LNG. Citi today has put a sell call on the stock. Upasna joins in with more details.
Well, Citi has given a sell rating on the stock with the target price of 310 per share. Now, recently, PNGRB has called for a regulatory framework to bring regasification activity under its purview. The regulator believes that this is a crucial step to ensure fair pricing, transparency, and efficient utilization of LNG import infrastructure. Now, regulator has called out Petronet LNG for profiting immensely at the cost of gas consumers. Now, Citi is of the view that the latest move clearly introduces a meaningful regulatory risk for the company. Together with increasing competition, Citi believes that this adds to the uncertainty on the sustainability of companies' historically strong pricing power. Hence, Citi has gone ahead and opened a 90-day negative catalyst watch on the stock.
Upasna, thanks a lot for that. 7.5% lower now, Petronet LNG at the lowest point of the session. But what is at the highest point of the session, though, is the Nifty. 400 points higher now on the index. 24,150 is where we are at the moment. And the short covering move that Nigel was just talking about an hour ago seems to be extending as we speak. At the highest point of the day now is the Nifty. But a segment that has been leading that charge is auto, and that is on the back of their sales numbers. And Rima is here to tell us more on that. Rima.
Thanks for that. So let me start with Eicher Motors, where the Royal Enfield sales numbers, at least the wholesale numbers, are much better than what the street was anticipating. And sales were led by a strong jump seen in exports. So the total sales went up by 25%, exports went up by 50%, and even the domestic sales were higher by 18.5%. But that said, the Vahan data seems to suggest that the retail sales outlook is still a bit muted because December registrations are down 4%. Ashok Leyland's domestic December sales also ahead of street expectation. Total sales have gone up by 5%, and MHCV has been strong, led by trucks. Now, Maruti and M&M are the other two stocks where you are seeing continued buying from yesterday. So yesterday, stocks rallied 2 to 3% on strong numbers, and there is follow-on buying. So for Maruti, just to recap, the key positives were the recovery in small cars and even exports. Citi has put a target price of 13,500 on Maruti, while Motilal Oswal says that Maruti is their top pick in the auto OEM because it's a play on rural recovery and valuations are attractive. M&M too continues to see buying. For M&M, tractors and passenger vehicles, particularly the SUVs, have done very well. Citi's put a target price of 3,520, and they say another good harvest season could be a positive driver for the stock, and tractor volumes could get a fillip. Back to you.
Thanks so much for that, Rima. The entire auto pack is doing very well in the session today. Well, let's now slip into a short break. We'll get you more on the markets and stock-specific action on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Midcap Radar. Well, the entire market is doing very, very well in today's trading session. But the Indian market ended 2024 with positive returns despite a rollercoaster ride. But the big question is, what is in store for 2025? CNBC-TV18 polled over 60 fund managers, HNIs and dealers. Nimish has all the details.
2024 has now become the 9th consecutive year of positive returns for the Indian equities, and that's the record. In fact, 24 was a year of record in many ways. The highest fundraise in a single year, the ever-growing domestic pool, and so on. But the big question is, what is in store for 2025? Will the rally sustain? Will the mid and small cap continue to outperform? These are the questions in the minds of the investors. So now, crystal gazing is always a challenge, but CNBC-TV18 has reached out to the biggest market experts to bring to you an Outlook 2025, the biggest market poll for the new year. In fact, it was a poll across 61 participants, including fund managers, HNIs, as well as institutional dealers. So let's begin with the first and the most important question. What kind of return should investors expect in 2025? Majority of the respondents expect a single to mid double-digit return in 25. Only 11% of the respondents expect a negative return on the Nifty next year. In that case, will the broader markets continue to outperform in 25? Surprisingly, 50% of the respondents believe that 25 will be a year of large caps. Only a small percentage are still betting on micro cap and small cap stocks, which brings to the next big question. and that is the biggest theme to bet on in 2025. Here there is a surprise. First surprise, financial has emerged as the biggest theme to bet on for the next year, and that is despite the macro challenges that the sector is facing and the fact that they have been an underperformer. The other surprise was the stellar outperformer of 24, which was capital goods. That's been considered as the least preferred bet going into 2025. We spoke about the returns and the big themes. Now, what's going to drive all these returns? And the near consensus answer is earnings, earnings, and earnings. That's going to be a dominant factor for the Indian equities to outperform going into 2025. There was a small portion who also believe that the Trump policies could be interesting to watch out for. Now, we spoke about the micros and the themes. Let's focus on some of the macros as well. Q2 was a bit of a shocker as far as the GDP figure is concerned. And after that, many on the streets have trimmed down their growth forecast for the country for next year. But will the growth surprise on the upside? We asked that question to majority. Most of them believe that the GDP growth will be between 6.25 to 6.5% in 2025. Only a mere 3% expect the growth to fall below 6%. So that's the big GDP growth forecast. So what's going to drive the GDP growth? And that's where the consensus seems to be, and that is the government spending. 77% of the respondents believe that government spending, which was lackluster in the first half of this year, will pick up in 2025. So that's going to be the big driver as far as the GDP growth is concerned. The other important factor was the rupee. We had a record year as far as rupee is concerned. So we asked the question as to will that be a spoil sport into 25 as well. Most of the experts believe that the rupee is going to be range between 85 to 87 a dollar, while a small segment expects the currency to appreciate below 85 as well going into 2025. Also, we saw a new RBI governor taking charge, and that the first policy will be in 2025. So we asked the experts what to expect in terms of RBI action. It's a divided house there. 50% believe that the first rate cut from RBI will be in the Q4 of this financial year. However, a small portion believes that the stretch line could be as late as the third quarter of FY26. So that's the RBI action. Indeed, if the RBI has to cut rates, then how much is the rate cut that the street is penciling in? Half of the respondents, which is 50%, believe that the rate cut going into 25 would be at least 50 basis points. So 50 to 75 basis points is what a lot of people are betting on. So that's the rate cut expectation going into 25. In fact, 24 was a very volatile year. We had a budget, we had general elections, multiple state elections, and so on and so on. But 25 could be a year of moderate returns, but the expectation is that the positive returns would continue going into 25 as well. That's the big poll from CNBC-TV18.
Well, if the first 2 days of 2025 are anything to go by, you know what's lined up for the rest of the year. That is a wrap on this edition of Midcap Radar. Vivek and I leave you with the Nifty 400 points higher. MF Corner comes up next from the team that put this show together. Thank you for watching.